In the very first video talking about figured bass, I introduced you to three chords, which I said were the most common chords used found in figured bass. Overwhelmingly, they were the first inversion, second inversion, and root position triads. Now, they are so common that the convention has developed that we don't always need to spell out every single note in those sort of chords. The note that you most often find above the bass is the third. So in the root position chord, you've got the third of the bass. Here we've got a C minor chord, and the third is E flat. In a first inversion chord, like this one, we've also got a third above the bass. And again, it's a G in this particular instance. For that reason, one of the conventions in figured bass is that we don't always need to write the three. If there's just one figure instead of two, remember, when we're dealing with chords that are triads that have got three notes in them, almost always have got three, sometimes four if it's a seventh chord, but almost always we've got three pitches to be dealing with. And if you've only got one figure, then it's perfectly okay to assume that the one that's been left out is the third. So I can just write 5 here, and anyone playing it or not trying to understand the analysis would assume that the third's there. Same is exactly true of this chord. I can just write 6. It's called. In fact, this is a first inversion chord, and they are often referred to with the abbreviation 6 chords. So that's perfectly enough. You can see here I've got a chord that we need to complete, and it's just got a 6 there, so I put the 6th above the bass, so an F, so a 6th above the bass is a D. But because there's only one figure, I have to assume the third. So what's a third above F? It's an A flat, and I'll put it in. There we go. Now, the most common chords that we find are root position chords, 5/3 chords. And the same is actually true of the 5s. We don't need that 5. So if there are no figures at all beneath a chord, the assumption is it's a root position chord, and we add the 5th and the 3rd. So the figures that I'm left with here are perfectly enough to describe what's going on. I need both the 6 and the 4 there because there are no thirds or fifths. In these two chords, I've left out the 3 because we just assume that the third of the chord is there. And in this chord, which is a root position chord, I don't need anything at all. So let's finish this off. I've got 7 and 3. That's a root position 7th chord. The 5 has been left out. So when I'm filling this in, I put in all of the required notes. So the 5th above the bass. Then I put in also the 3rd above the bass. Must make it natural, because you see here 3 natural. And the 7th above the bass is also, because a dominant 7th chord. There we go. Likewise here at the end, I've just got this 4 moving to 3 here. I can assume, because I've only got one figure, what has been left out? Well, if we've got the 3, eventually we arrive at the 3. Again, it's a root position chord, and the 5th of the chord has been left out. So I've put the 5th in, and then we have the 4th above the bass dropping to the 3rd above the bass, as indicated in the figures. And here's what it sounds like.